know how it goes. Some lesser known prospect like Adrian Del Castillo seemingly comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's this hot waiver wire ad, and you're thinking, man, I wish I knew about him beforehand. Well, you did if you listened to Beat the Breakout about a month ago when I said this is a good time to stash Adrian Del Castillo. Let's do it again. Let's try to find that next prospect who's just getting the call or has not even gotten the call yet and might help you win down the stretch. Let's actually start with a couple players who just in the last couple of days are on major league rosters, and then I'll get to some minor leaguers who might still need a little bit more time, but I bet you they could make an impact. But I think first things first, let's get to the next Alex Bregman. All right, maybe that's a little too much, but right now, Shea Whitcomb is filling in for Alex Bregman at third base. You know, Bregman has some shoulder soreness. He's day to day. It doesn't sound like anything serious. I know he's probably going to avoid the injured list. So maybe Whitcomb gets sent back. Maybe he sits on the bench. Look, this could just be a short term fix or maybe nothing at all. But you don't know because so far Whitcomb has held his own at the major league level. A hit in his first major league at bat, 3 hits in his first 3 games. Not too bad. But yeah, I have to admit also, not too great because he does have 5 strikeouts in his first 12 at bats. So mixed bag so far, but look, just having that bat in the Astros lineup on a daily basis, that's pretty valuable. So let's hope he sticks there. And even when Bregman does come back, he might get squeezed out of playing time because Jeremy Pena is set at shortstop. Whitcomb is a shortstop by trade. He's filling in for third right now out of necessity. Maybe get some at-bats at DH, maybe utility player. I mean, look, the Astros could use somebody who could hit down the stretch. Maybe Whitcomb sticks around. We'll see. And of course, injuries do always happen. And this is a player who could definitely help you in multiple categories. He was lighting it up at AAA. He was hitting 293, had a total of 25 home runs and 26 stolen bases this season. Now, what makes this really intriguing is that they might want to get a longer look at Whitcomb because, well, even if Alex Bregman is here the rest of this season, he may not be an Astro forever. He is an impending free agent. A lot of noise already about where he might go. I mean, I don't know if he's got a foot out the door already or what. Astros might want to maybe get a little bit younger there. Bregman's slowly starting to show some signs of decline. I mean, he's not going to give up his job or anything like that in September, but Whitcomb could stick around on the roster even if all parties do stay healthy. Then a player who should stick around, welcome back to the majors, Connor Norby, who, remember, is now in Miami. And his first game as a Marlin, a hit, a run, and an RBI. Second game as a Marlin, 2 hits, both of them doubles. And Norby also playing third base, not necessarily his position. He could play second and now third. Might gain more eligibility there in fantasy leagues. This is an intriguing play, of course, for deeper leagues, NL only leagues. You're not necessarily going to throw him right in your starting lineup. I mean, it is still the Marlins, but we know Norby is a high-end prospect who only didn't last in Baltimore because they have too many high-end prospects, but now definitely a path to everyday playing time the rest of this season. He's got power, and actually might not even realize because he wasn't a stolen base machine in the minors, but and so far he's showing he's got the speed, limited time of course, but his sprint speed would rank in the 96th percentile. Marlins are a team that will run. They're just barely outside the top 10 in terms of stolen base attempts per game. And again, nothing to lose here. Let the young players play. Let them run. Let them hit. Norby's got no pressure to perform here. So I think this is a very intriguing ad that definitely could help some teams who are still in win now mode. All right, one more player that you might have noticed just made his major league debut. That is Cincinnati Reds pitcher Julian Aguilar. Now, disclaimer here, not every prospect that I talk about is one I'm necessarily going to say you want to pick up for sure. It's like that retweet does not mean endorsement thing. I'm going to talk about him, but it doesn't mean I'm going to add him right now. But let's see how he does in his second start. Over 4 full innings, he allowed 2 runs, 4 hits, struck out 2, walked 1. That's okay. And as far as that farm system goes, again, not their highest prospect, not somebody that, Reds fans or prospect towns have been sitting there waiting to debut. It's a guy who, again, let's see how he does. He'll get a shot now. Hunter Green on the IL. Unfortunately, Cincinnati still had a hole in the back of their rotation, so he could stick around. But let's take a wait and see approach here. He was solid throughout the minors, both double and triple A this season, which is why he did get the call across both 22 starts, 3.79 ERA, and a 1.21 whip. The only thing is not even a strikeout per inning, so the strikeout numbers won't be great even if he does keep the ratios down. So again, this is a deep league speculative pick, but just something to monitor. Now, Quinn Matthews of the Cardinals is one of their top prospects. In fact, number 2 overall. This is a tall, left-handed pitcher who, well, honestly might be what Matthew Liberatore has not been. Somebody who would actually get outs consistently and strike out a ton of batters. He's got a 4-pitch mix. He does have high strikeout numbers. And in fact, since moving up to Double A, he has been pretty much dominant. Got a 2.62 ERA, 1.05 whip at that level, and 58 strikeouts in just 44 innings. Only issue here with Matthews when he will debut, he might not until 2025. There's no obvious opening in that rotation. I mean, they could always move Andre Palante back to the bullpen. He's been fine as a 5th man so far. Just Matthews just doesn't really fit with that rotation because it's basically like No Country for Old Men there. A lot of veterans. Basically, Palante is the only one who isn't well over 30. So Cardinals are just sticking with what they've got. But let's keep an eye maybe when the rosters expand, somebody finally gets some shoulder soreness or something happens. If Matthews does get the call, I'll be very excited to see him debut. All right, now let's talk about a team that I can't even remember the last time we mentioned, the Royals, on this particular video. Beat the breakout. You're looking at prospects, guys who can make an impact. The Royals really just haven't had to dip into their farm system much this year. They've been pretty fortunate as far as not having too many serious injuries, and they're using this kind of mix and match approach at a lot of positions, platooning left and right. I mean, it's working. I can't stop being surprised at the fact that not only they're still in the wild card race, I mean, they're only a couple of games behind first place in their division behind Cleveland. But if they do have a need or decide to inject a little bit of youth into their roster, and of course, we're not too far away from roster expansion, I think the first name on the list should be Tyler Gentry, an outfielder. Now, in the season, the minors hitting 254, 12 home runs, 52 RBIs. Solid, but it doesn't jump out at you. But this has been a different story in the second half of the season. He's been hitting 310 with 8 home runs, just 145 at-bats. He's really starting to pick things up. Kansas City really not that deep offensively at the minor league level. He's one of the first names that should come to mind if they do have a need for some sort of a spark plug. And if they need help pitching, which, well, I'll talk about that in a second, they might more so than they realize. Well, this is not a player who's that high on their list, but right now Noah Cameron is looking like the best pitcher that they've got in the minors. According to MLB Pipeline, he's their number 17 overall prospect, but ever since moving up to AAA, he's gotten noticeably better. That's right, his strikeout rate has jumped up. Only 4 starts, but still a 31% K rate at AAA. And more impressively, the uptick in strikeouts has actually also come with fewer walks, a 30-4 K to BB ratio. And he's only given up 3 runs in 25 innings. I mean, this is something that definitely makes you want to take notice. And you look at the Royals rotation and say, I mean, they're set. It's not the best in the bigs, but they don't have anybody who you'd think immediately would be sent down. They haven't had a lot of injuries, like I mentioned. Honestly, Michael Lorenzen is probably better off as a long reliever in the bullpen. He's been just okay. It's not like he's helped him out that much. And I know this might sound controversial again. I talked about on the cut list. Seth Lugo, remember, he has not been a starter a lot of his career. He really seems like he's wearing out. I don't see them doing that unless they really, really need to. But, man, I wouldn't be surprised if something crops up with him because he just seems gassed. So I want to keep a close eye on Noah Cameron to see maybe he does get the call. This guy has great command. That's always what I'm looking for. And, the velocity isn't really that great. His changeup is. And that's something that, well, take a page out of Seth Lugo's book. That's how he's succeeded so far. And if you're not sure why I talked about Lugo as a cut for fantasy, well, you didn't check out my latest video. He and a few other players that might surprise you maybe don't belong on your fantasy rosters anymore.